collaborations in areas such as energy, clean technology, agri-food, and financial services. A partnership that will increase trade and catalyze new investment. Tomorrow, I will go to Davos, Switzerland, where I'll meet with leaders in commerce, technology, and global governance. Nos partenariats sont différents par leur orientation, leur portée et leur profondeur, mais ils poursuivent tous un même objectif: renforcer la stabilité, la sécurité et la prospérité du Canada et de nos partenariats. Le Qatar est profondément connecté au monde, économiquement diversifié et un leader sur la scène internationale. Près de 10 000 Canadiens et Canadiennes vivent et travaillent au Qatar. Nos échanges commerciaux bilatéraux connaissent une croissance rapide. Le Qatar représente près de la moitié des exportations canadiennes portées notamment par l'aérospatiale et la fabrication de pointe. Aujourd'hui, les investissements du Qatar au Canada progressent à un rythme près de 20% par année. Et maintenant, nous élevons notre relation et son niveau d'alignement en passant d'amis à de proches partenaires stratégiques. To launch this new chapter in our relationship, I'm pleased to announce that Qatar has committed to make significant strategic investments in Canada's nation-building projects. This capital will help the projects get built faster and supercharge our energy industries, while helping to create thousands of high-paying careers for Canadians. We're also announcing an ambitious new partnership while we deepen our ties across trade, investment, defense, and AI. After years of stalled negotiations, we're prioritizing a new investment promotion and protection agreement, which we'll finalize by this summer. This agreement will enable Canadian businesses to more easily expand their operations in and attract investment from this dynamic $290 billion economy. Following Ramadan, representatives from Qatar's Sovereign Wealth Fund will visit Canada to explore new investment opportunities. And in the coming months, a delegation of Canada's leading pension funds will visit here to do the same. Nous mettons en place une nouvelle commission sur la coopération économique, commerciale et technique afin de faciliter et de renforcer les liens d'affaires. Nous identifierons des possibilités de co-investissement dans l'intelligence artificielle, l'aérospatiale, le calcul quantique, la cybersécurité et les informations technology. We're launching negotiations on a new double taxation agreement to make it easier for Canadians to work and invest in Qatar, and vice versa. And we're deepening our defense relationship with joint training, expertise sharing, industrial partnerships, and military exchanges. Canada will also establish a defense attaché here in Doha to further opportunities to partner in defense, joining Canadian forces in this country. When the people of different countries are familiar with each other's cultures and perspectives, they're enriched and they trust each other more. They also want to do more together, to build together. And to that end, Canada and Qatar are strengthening our people-to-people ties and our cultural ties. This year, Qatar begins its year of culture, building lasting relationships through cultural, educational, business, and creative exchanges. Canada, to further these efforts, will expand our air transport agreement to increase direct flights to this country. Will also lead to more tourism and business between our nations. Finally, in the spirit of cultural exchange, I've extended an invitation to His Highness to visit Canada as our two countries face off in our first kickoff in our first ever World Cup match this June in Vancouver. On that note, I also want to thank Qatar and His Highness for the offer to share security expertise that they gained in hosting the World Cup. I had the privilege to cheer on Team Canada here. I can report that my heart rate, according to my watch, hit a new record when Alphonso Davies put it in the net for Canada. We look forward to continued success in the new year as host. Our two countries have much in common. We're both resource-based economies. We have complementary strengths in technology, security, and defense. We've long been friends. We've often worked together to pursue peace, security, and stability in the world. And now through shared ambition, we're working to diversify our trade, commerce, investment, to help build clean energy, health, AI, and defense capabilities, and to forge a new strategic partnership. In this more uncertain and dangerous world, we've chosen to create greater stability, security, and prosperity together. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Nous allons maintenant prendre des questions. One question per journalist. First question, Robert.
Rob Rousseau with The Economist. Prime Minister, I wonder if I can draw a line between a speech you made last April in which you said that if the United States was no longer ready to lead countries interested in trade, that Canada would lead. Put that into context for this week's visit. Has that begun? Other countries, which other countries are joining with you in this effort? And whether or not you discussed this effort with President Xi, and he might be interested, or you might be interested in having China join this effort.
Okay. So this is an important question. Let me generalize the question first and then go more specifically, which is what's happening at pace and at scale is that a number of the multilateral relationships, institutions, rules-based systems are being eroded by various decisions of various countries, the United States included. And the consequence of that is that there's a reduction in freer trade. Much more trade is tariff-based or otherwise restricted. And there is virtually no, with all due respect to those who are trying to push it, but virtually no multilateral progress in these areas. Where there is progress, and where Canada and like-minded countries are looking to make progress, is through plurilateral deals, fancy word, economist knows it, which is multiple countries but not all countries. So an example of that is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Another example of it is the European Union, amongst the European Union, but the European Union with like-minded countries, Canada included. You just saw this week the European Union deal with Mercosur. One of the things we're doing, and one of the things I did discuss with President Xi, is where does it go from here? One of the first steps, and we're on record in advocating this, and we're working to make this happen, is to build a bridge between the European Union and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, Canada is a member of both. I mean, we have a free trade, I should say more specifically, we're part of Trans-Pacific Partnership, but we also have a free trade, comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU, which has just been expanded by the agreement that we signed this past June with them and that we're working through to implement. So we're brokering, helping to broker, bringing that together. There is logic for other countries to join if that initial progress is made, but of course there's contingencies around that. The first has to happen in that. That is, to finish and bring it all together, that is not as good as a multilateral system that works, but it's far better than a system that's splintering into autarky and in the extreme, and that's what we're working towards.
Was there interest from President Xi?
Yes, there is interest from China in expanding their trade relations, including, I mean, they're on public record in wanting to be part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We take note of that. Our first priority as Canada, and I believe as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is to make that work. It is working well, but also to explore this opportunity with the EU.
Next question. Prochaine question. Kyle.
Kyle Duggan from the Canadian Press. Thank you for taking our questions, Mr. Prime Minister. Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Unifor are reacting strongly against your EV announcement. They say that this is a terrible deal that is giving a toehold into the domestic market for an industry that is heavily state subsidized. So what assurances can you give to unionized workers in Canada, in the auto sector? And have you had any conversations with Chinese companies about potential investment or opening factories in Canada?
So thank you for the question. So let's look at the. Let me just recap the auto agreement and go to the question on prospective investment. The first is order of magnitude. 49,000 vehicles is the amount, is the cap of this agreement. That's the same amount of vehicles that Canada was importing from China in 2023. Okay, so same level. Although at that time there wasn't a cap. Now there's a cap, first point. Secondly, to put in context of the size of the market, that is less than 3% of the 1.8 million vehicle market for cars and trucks in Canada every year. Every year, that's how many cars and trucks that Canadians purchase. Thirdly, what's in the agreement is a commitment, or it's actually a cap within the cap in terms of affordable vehicles that scales up quite quickly to 50%. So half of that total amount have to be vehicles priced at EVs at less than $35,000. So there's a big affordability focus there. And then the fourth element is an expectation that there will be Chinese investment, partnering with Canadian companies in Canada, and of course an expectation that meet our labor standards to work with that. There is interest of Chinese firms in doing so. That interest is triggered by this agreement, and it creates the possibility within our auto sector, which is very large, very diverse, has a number of players, to have companies that are producing affordable cars in Canada for Canadians and providing the type of technology and expertise that's going to help build a more competitive auto market going forward. The other point, Kyle, last point I'd make is that within the agreement as well is a review after 3 years. So we have to see all these elements that come into place.
But how do you know that there's interest?
I do know there's interest because we've had direct conversations directly from the Chinese companies, directly from and companies that are amongst the world leaders, and collectively are the world leaders in this space, with explicit interest and intention to partner with Canadian companies. So we have, without question, there is direct interest in that. We'll see what comes to pass. This is an opportunity for Ontario. It's an opportunity for Ontario workers, opportunity for Canada, done in a controlled way with a modest start. This is how, it's interesting. The term you used, you said toehold. It's a trial. It's an early stage, and this is the way you bring somebody into the market. But remember, this is a market that is the auto sector, which is evolving very rapidly. And we want to be competitive in this market. We don't want to be competitive in the market of 2000, 2010. We want to be competitive in the market in the future. Is what's going to get great jobs for Ontarians going forward. So, Mr. Chase.
Next question.
Good afternoon, Steve Chase, Globe and Mail. It's about Greenland. I want to talk to you or ask you questions about the new economic coercion that Mr. Trump is directing at our next door neighbor, as well as 7 European allies and Britain. He's talking about 10% tariffs until he's allowed to buy Greenland on 8 countries, and they are going to go up to 25% in June. So my question is, how can Canada accept this? What are you going to do about it, including adding to the military presence in Greenland? And what are you going to tell Mr. Trump? What's your message to Mr. Trump about this economic coercion if you meet him in Davos?
Thank you for this very precise questions. It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation, to be absolutely clear. We always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is. I might add, to bring it to the current discussion today, as part of the discussions the Emir and I had about a series of situations which would have a common element, which is threats to or compromising territorial integrity and sovereignty, Ukraine being a very prominent example. But I'll bring it back now to Greenland. So we will always support that. The future of Greenland, decisions about the future of Greenland, are for Greenland and Denmark to decide. And the security of Greenland, security is first and foremost for them, but very much falls within the responsibilities of NATO. I had conversations with the NATO Secretary General in Paris 10 days ago, within the past 2 weeks at least, about how we're going to further enhance that security umbrella. It's something that Canada is working on already and contributing to. When I say working on within the broader Arctic, the so-called western flank and northern flank of NATO. And that's the job of NATO, and that's the responsibility of NATO partners. I have spoken to our European NATO partners, a number of them, Nordic NATO partners. I've spoken to the Prime Minister of Greenland, and there's a full commitment, not surprisingly, as is appropriate, of NATO partners to the security of Greenland. That's the right way to address this security, and the right way, finish and then hand back in terms of whether it's development of critical minerals, is to develop in partnership.
You didn't mention the United States once. I asked you, what are you going to say to Mr. Trump about this economic coercion?
I'm going to say everything I just said. How's that?
En français, s'il vous plaît.
En français, je vais prononcer tous les mots que je viens de dire.
Non, 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 sur elle.
Ah, on va,
Oui,
OK.
oui, oui.
En ce qui concerne, alors,
Est-ce que vous êtes
alors oui, le Canada est préoccupé par l'escalade actuelle. Premier point. Deuxièmement, la souveraineté et l'intégrité territoriale de n'importe quel pays, dans n'importe quel coin du monde, est inviolable. C'est un des aspects des discussions avec Son Altesse, c'était sur ce sujet, sur l'Ukraine, sur d'autres situations actuelles. Les décisions pour l'avenir de Groenland, de le Groenland, c'est la responsabilité du Groenland et du Danemark. Et la sécurité de Groenland, c'est la responsabilité premièrement pour le Danemark et le Groenland, mais dans l'ensemble, c'est la responsabilité de l'OTAN. Et j'ai eu des conversations avec le secrétaire général de l'OTAN sur ce sujet, et plus que ça, plusieurs discussions avec des dirigeants des pays européens sur ce sujet. Canada fait son part de sécurité actuelle de l'Arctique. Okay?
Prochaine question, Laurence.
Donc, est-ce que pour vous, la volonté de M. Trump d'annexer le Groenland, c'est de l'impérialisme? Et est-ce que si M. Trump ne lâche pas le morceau et va de l'avant, est-ce que c'est la fin de l'OTAN?
Ce n'est pas nécessaire de continuer avec cet épisode, selon nous, parce qu'on peut renforcer la sécurité de Groenland avec les atouts et la volonté de l'OTAN, du pays de l'OTAN.
Mais est-ce que c'est de l'impérialisme, ma première question?
Ce n'est pas nécessaire. Ce n'est pas nécessaire, cette situation. Et comme je viens de dire, le Canada est préoccupé par l'escalade actuelle.
Mais pourquoi
We'll go to the last question. Dernière
pourquoi est-ce que vous ne
question.
voulez pas critiquer M. Trump?
We'll go to Ashley.
Ouais, dans l'ensemble, je ne suis pas d'accord avec l'idée. Ça c'est clair. Ça, c'est clair. Alors, mais c'est le job. Dans une situation, il y a des situations, c'est la responsabilité du Canada de trouver des solutions. Et la solution est ici, l'avenir du Groenland, c'est le choix du Groenland et Danemark, et la sécurité du Groenland, c'est la responsabilité ultime de l'OTAN.
Last question. Dernière question. Ashley.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Ashley Burke, CBC News. Why are you accepting President Trump's invitation to join his Board of Peace? Is it acceptable to pay $1 billion to be a permanent member? And as well, do you have any concerns that this board could undermine the UN system?
Well, a couple of things there. One is that we will I mean, there is a humanitarian tragedy in Gaza that is ongoing. And Canada will make every effort possible to address the situation and provide, at first step to alleviate stop the suffering, the intensification of the suffering, alleviate the situation, provide humanitarian aid, stabilize, ultimately move towards peace and a two-state solution. So we will explore every avenue in order to do that. I will, again, and I'll get to the balance of your question, again, I want to take this opportunity to reinforce the incredibly positive role and diligent role and an effort sans relâche de Son Altesse and of Qatar to getting us to this position where there is the possibility of those things happening in their leadership of achieving a ceasefire. First point. Second, with respect to the specifics of the Board of Peace, the President raised it with me a few weeks ago. I said, in principle, yes, obviously, consistent with what I just said, I will do what I can do. We will do as Canada what we can do to achieve those core humanitarian objectives. With respects to the specifics of the Board of Peace, we haven't gone through all the details of the structure, how it's going to work, what financing is for, et cetera. And so we will work through those in the coming days. I had an exchange of views with the Emir, His Highness the Emir, about that, and I found that we were very aligned about what needs to happen, how it needs to work in order for this to be consistent with a positive outcome.
Is $1 billion reasonable, though?
I mean, that's one of the the modalities of that, money, how's it going? All these questions. Canada wants money to have maximum impact. Let me underscore one thing. Let me underscore one basic thing about the situation. We still do not have unimpeded aid flows, humanitarian aid flows at scale to the people of Gaza. That is a precondition for moving forward on this. Thank you.
En français, sur le Conseil de la paix, pourquoi vous avez accepté l'invitation de M. Trump?
En principe, j'ai eu une discussion avec le président il y a quelques semaines et en principe, j'ai dit oui, le Canada va faire tout ce que nous pouvons le faire pour la paix, pour l'allègement de la situation. C'est une situation horrible qui existe encore. Alors, mais il faut étudier les détails, il faut mieux comprendre les modalités, l'efficacité de cette idée de Conseil de la paix. J'ai eu une bonne discussion avec Son Altesse sur le sujet et nous sommes absolument d'accord avec quelques aspects qui seront nécessaires pour cette idée d'être aussi effective que possible.
Merci. C'est ce qui met fin à notre conférence de presse.
Merci beaucoup.
This puts an end to our press conference. Thank you.